Hi, this is Dom from Tech Advisor here for another unboxing. We have the Oppo Reno Z, or Z, depending on your linguistic inclination, which is the new sort of budget model in the Oppo Reno range. So let's take a look at it. Okay, so I helpfully have one of the other Oppo Reno models here for comparison. That one's actually the 5G model, but it's exactly the same as the 10 times zoom 4G model. But this Reno Z, or Z, is something a little bit different. It's priced in the UK at just £299, so that's less than half that top-end flagship, and lower even than the regular Reno. But we're going to see as we go, there's a lot of stuff that you're getting that's quite different to those top-end models. Particularly, it's missing what's kind of like the flagship Reno feature, which is that pivot rising shark fin selfie camera. But let's get into what we do have. So there we go. That's the phone itself, the Reno Z. I don't know. I'm going to keep going both ways. Who knows? What do we get? There's something else in there, if it wants to. Got even more in there. What's that? We've got something. Is that stuck in there? No, I think it's part of the packaging. It's like I've never unboxed a phone before. These aren't even interesting anyway. It's warranty stuff. Right. Okay, there we go. The phone itself, if I can get that up. So, yeah, we've got the basic like headline specs here. 48 megapixel main camera lens, which is nice because at a £299 phone, £299 phone, that's really good. It's the same main camera that's actually in the higher end models. So that's one of the areas you're still getting sort of that great high-end performance. And also 4,000 milliamp hour battery, pretty much the same size. You've got the VOOC 3.0 charging, which is the same fast charging in the top model. You've still got the in-screen fingerprint reader. It's then when we get there like 4 gig of RAM, that's when you start to think, 4 gig of RAM, like that's fine, that's good, but that's not flagship. And it's that kind of internal stuff, but we'll see this feels like the cheaper phone that it is. You're gonna have to forgive me. I've only this is a phone I found out was coming to the UK this morning. We requested it, and then the phone turned up this afternoon. And this is the only chance we got to shoot video. So I had to very quickly find out everything I can about this phone so we could get some video out to you guys straight away. But we will get to the actual phone in a sec. What else do we have in here? Okay, we've got a case. Oh, what's that? It's a bit fluff. Transparent, but kind of, dark. So it is going to block the color of it a bit, but still looks nice. Headphones in. I actually don't know, does this have a headphone port? It does, headphone jack. So normal 3.5mm headphones that come with it. You'll see we've got a European power plug and USB-C cable for charging. And that's it. That's all we've got in there. So pretty standard set of stuff. Nice to get headphones in. I can't imagine they're the best headphones in the world. But it's one of those things manufacturers increasingly not bothering to include is headphones in the box. So especially at this price point, it's nice to see they're still in there. Okay, let's get to the meat of this thing. So, okay. Now we have that color, which I really, really, really like. So this is Aurora Purple. But you can also get the phone in, I think they call it jet black. As you can see, this is purple, but it's this purpley, bluey kind of gradient thing that's going on. Very purpley at the top. I mean, it's actually more blue than purple overall, but still, I think that's a really nice finish. And again, especially at this price point, getting that kind of nice gradient effect, often that's the kind of thing that drops off a bit as you get down to the lower price spec of these things. And if we look on the back, I'll get that screen off. The design is pretty similar to the high-end Reno. You can see the base sort of aesthetic is still the same. Obviously the camera module very different, and that's one of the areas we'll see there is some change. But core, you still got this sort of stripped down the middle design, which I don't love, but I know other people really do. And it's also got the O dot, which is that little ceramic nubbin that lets the phone rest on it, so that the camera lenses don't get scratched, because just like on the high-end Reno, it's pretty much totally flush with the body. In fact, oh no, sorry, there's actually a glass protector on the back of the phone pre-applied. So that's why that looks like it's a little bit sort of indented. That's just because it's come pre-applied with a protector on the back as well as the front, which I don't think I've ever seen before. Okay, so let's get it turned on and run through some quick setup. Okay, cool. So I've just run through the boring immediate bits of setup, and here we go to the welcome screen for ColorOS 6. So that's sort of the Oppo branding for its own OS. This is the same version of the OS that's, again, on the latest Reno. We used to really not be a big fan of ColorOS, but actually the 6th version is like a big step up. It's still not the best Android skin out there. For me, it still doesn't match what OnePlus do with Oxygen, or Samsung's new One UI, the one they introduced earlier this year with the S10. But it's a real step up. It's very sort of, I don't know, chunky and colorful. And it's got that kind of thing. It still takes sort of design cues from Apple and iOS. But, you know, it looks nice. It's mostly pretty easy to navigate. I find some of the settings menus a bit odd to work around. But broadly, I think unless you're a real, like, stock Android nerd, you're probably not going to have too much to complain about. Okay, so one of the first things we'll notice as we compare these two phones. So again, this is the Reno Z, and this is the 10 times zoom 5G model. So yeah, the notch here. So we've got this dewdrop, kind of teardrop notch effect on the top of the Z because it is lacking that main exciting high-end Reno feature, which is that silly rising selfie camera. Oh god, my chin looks horrible like that. That's a bit better. There we go. So we don't have that shark fin look on this phone. It's just a standard notch, which is a bit odd, I think, to put this out with the Reno name. And I think it felt maybe to a lot of people like Reno was synonymous with that that shark fin, because that was kind of the one big thing that was unified across the previous Reno models. But still, at £300, maybe that's kind of a sensible place to cut some corners. And one of the funny things is actually the camera is potentially better. This is a 32 megapixel selfie camera, whereas that one's only 16. So you are getting a higher megapixel count on the selfie camera. Going to the back cameras, this is where we got a big difference. So like I said, the main lens is still the same 48 megapixel one. And it is actually, you know, I was looking through the specs earlier. It's the same lens, it's the same Sony sensor, it's got the same aperture. Everything seems to be the exact same as the lens that the big Reno is packing. What you're not getting is the wide angle or the 5x optical zoom telephoto that's in the 10x zoom model. Instead, that second lens is just a 5 megapixel depth sensor. So that will help taking portrait mode shots and things like that. But you're not getting those other like zoom options, wide angle, all of that. It's just going to take your standard images well. Portrait should be good. It should have the same software side and the sort of AI image processing. So you should get the same night mode stuff. Obviously, I've just got the phone out, so I haven't had a chance to run through exactly how the camera performs. But I would expect it to do a pretty good job. Like, I was impressed by the Reno 10x zoom camera. I'm sure this will do almost as well for standard photos. The challenge is going to be, while on the software side, the processing might be the same, hardware-wise, it's definitely going to be quite different. While the Reno is packing a Snapdragon, sorry, the Reno 10x zoom is packing a Snapdragon 855, this is a MediaTek Helios P90 processor, which you may not have heard of. MediaTek is one of the other sort of rival chip manufacturers. They don't tend to get used as often, certainly not in the West, and certainly not in big phones or flagship models. The P90 is kind of an equivalent to the Snapdragon 710. So it's a mid-range chip. So it will be fine. It will be fast enough for ordinary usage, but it's definitely not flagship performance. It's definitely not high-end gaming performance. And I would feel it might lag a bit when you're talking about that image processing stuff. It could mean that, say, night mode and things like that may take a little bit longer to process. It may not come out quite as well. And that's one of the things I'm going to be looking for as we're playing around with the phone in the full review. The rest of the specs, it's a kind of a similar story. There's 4 gigabytes of RAM rather than 6 or 8, 128 gigabytes of storage, at least in the UK. I think other countries may be getting slightly different SKUs in terms of RAM amounts and storage amounts. So I know the phone's coming to India in August. I'm not sure where else. So if those internal specs are a bit different where you are, then sorry. But yeah, for the UK, it's 4 gig of RAM and 128 gig of storage. Other than that, though, there aren't that many compromises. Like, the design is still nice. It's obviously a bit smaller than the Reno, but that's probably a good thing for a lot of people. Like, the main Reno, this is a big phone. Like, this is right at the limits of what I'm comfortable using in terms of phone size. And you can sort of see, like, in my hand, like, that's a stretch for me to use that. So the big Reno is 6.7-inch screen. This is 6.4-inch, so I think for a lot of people that will be a nicer size, actually. It's still plenty big. It's a small notch, so you're still getting an almost full screen experience. And actually, the screen should be of a very comparable quality. It's also AMOLED. It's also 1080p. So this is basically the same kind of screen experience you're getting in that high-end Reno phone. You just have to put up with a little bit of a notch at the top, which I don't think is a particularly big compromise to make, given the price difference we're looking at elsewhere. And otherwise, yeah, the software's the same. There's still an in-screen fingerprint scanner. You get the perk of a headphone jack, which you do not get on the more expensive Reno. It's still USB-C charging, and like I said, it's still got the VOOC 3.0 super fast charging, so you should be looking at charging like most of the battery in half an hour. It's the same 4,000 milliamp hour battery, and given that it's running a slower processor and like slower specs, actually that battery life should last a lot longer. So where the flagship Reno 10x zoom would do a day, stretch to 2 days just about, I would kind of expect the Reno Z to be a 2-day phone pretty comfortably. If it's what I'm expecting from it. I haven't tested that, but that's what I'd be thinking this is likely to deliver. So yeah, I mean, I'm honestly really quite impressed by this. It's got a lot of oomph for what it is. The big drawback is you're going to be missing out on that kind of internal processing power. So if what you're really looking for is gaming, it's not going to deliver on that front. But for everything else, it kind of will. And the only big compromise on photography is that you're missing the telephoto and the wide angle. But I honestly think those are the kind of things most people don't use that often. They're nice features to market a phone. They sound really cool. You see people zoomed in shots of like faraway buildings, and it seems really cool. When you've actually got the phone, 9 times out of 10, you just take it out of your pocket, point and shoot, and take the photo that you get from that. And this will be almost as good, I would think, on that kind of photography, which is what counts. Plus, this color is so much better than the green of that, if you ask me. So yeah, this is out now, I think, in the UK at $299. I think it's coming to India in August. August 11th is the date I saw, but I might be slightly wrong on that, so sorry. Yeah, if you like the look of the sort of modern Oppo UI and you've been tempted, but you're sort of not quite sure about that pivot rising camera, or you can't justify the cost of one of the top-end Renos, like, yeah, I would give the Reno Z a really serious look. Thanks.